Where did Jesus go between his death and resurrection? This is the question we will explore during this time of sharing. The Bible provides several clues as to where Jesus was after his death, although it does not offer a detailed itinerary. 1 Peter chapter 3 says, Christ also suffered once for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God. He was put to death in the flesh, but was made alive in the Spirit, in whom he also went and preached to the spirits in prison, who formerly disbelieved when the patience of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared. In it a few, that is 8 people, were saved through water. And this is written from verses 18 to 20. This passage is often interpreted to mean that Jesus descended to the abode of the dead to proclaim his death, victory over sin and death. Furthermore, chapter 4 of the same book corroborates this. It is written, For the gospel was preached also to the dead, so that, having been judged as men in the flesh, they might live according to God in the Spirit. We see this in verse 6. These verses suggest a continuation of Jesus' mission, extending his message of salvation even to those who had died before his earthly ministry. Furthermore, a summary of the Christian faith derived from the early teachings of the Church states that Jesus descended into hell, an event known as the descent into hell. This notion finds extra-biblical support in texts such as the Gospel of Nicodemus. It describes Jesus breaking down the brazen gates and freeing the bound spirits, including notable figures such as Adam and the common man. Old Testament prophets. Matthew 27 adds another dimension to this period by recounting from verses 50 to 53 that Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook, the rocks split, the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. Coming out of the tombs after Jesus had risen, they entered the holy city and appeared to many people. This deeply symbolic account underscores the transformative impact of Jesus' death, not only on the living, but also on those who had already passed on. The interpretation of Jesus' whereabouts during the 3 days following his death and preceding his resurrection varies from one Christian denomination to another. The predominant narratives reflect historical nuances developed over the centuries. The predominant narratives are shaped by the interpretations, teachings, and reflections of the Church Fathers and commentators. Among Roman Catholics, this belief is firmly rooted in the tradition that Jesus descended into hell, an event formulated in the Apostles' Creed as his descent into the abode of the dead. This belief is not considered a literal descent into hell, but rather a state where the righteous await salvation. Here Jesus is believed to have proclaimed freedom to these righteous souls, thus fulfilling the mission of the Church. Eastern Orthodox Christians share a similar view, often referred to as the rending of hell. They maintain that Jesus descended into Hades to break the chains of death and free the righteous from the grip of hell. Orthodox tradition emphasizes victory over death and the devil, portraying Jesus' descent as a triumphant act of liberating humanity from ancestral captivity imposed by sin and death. Protestants, though diverse in their interpretations, generally